There is a really profound paradox that has, well, it's absolutely baffled seekers and philosophers for thousands of years.
Oh, totally. And probably anyone who has ever just felt overwhelmed by their daily to-do list, honestly.
Right, exactly. It's basically this. How can you completely renounce the world, let go of all your agonizing worldly attachments while still showing up every single day?
Yeah, to do your job, pay your mortgage, deal with your family.
Exactly. Like, how do you chop wood and carry water when you supposedly transcended the fundamental need for wood and water?
It sounds impossible when you say it like that.
It really does. But today, we are diving into a revelation that completely flips our understanding of what it means to actually let go.
A total paradigm shift.
Because the text we're looking at today argues that true renunciation isn't about abandoning your duties, packing your bags, and running away to some mythical cave in the Himalayas.
Thank goodness for that.
Right. I mean, it's actually about performing those exact same daily duties, but with a total liberating detachment.
Doing the exact same things, but feeling completely different on the inside.
Exactly. So before we really get into the mechanics of how you can achieve this seemingly impossible state of mind without just becoming completely apathetic, obviously I want to quickly invite you to subscribe, follow along, and drop your own reflections in the comments as we go.
We always love seeing how these ancient frameworks collide with your modern realities.
We really do. So welcome to this deep dive into Simplified Awakening. Today, our focus is squarely on Chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita.
Yes, specifically Karma Sanyasa Yoga.
Which roughly translates to the way of renunciation of actions.
Right. And to really grasp what is happening here, we have to recognize that this chapter does not exist in a vacuum.
No, definitely not.
We're stepping into a river that is already flowing really fast. It directly continues the intense philosophical tension that was building up in the previous chapters.
The tension between karma yoga, which is the path of dedicated action, and the path of complete renunciation.
Exactly. The path of monastic withdrawal, doing nothing. And to give us the sharpest possible lens on this, we are exploring this tension through the profoundly detailed commentary of the 8th century philosopher Adi Shankaracharya.
And his analysis is incredibly sharp.
It really is. The baseline we need to establish right away is his deeply considered view. Both of these paths, renunciation of action and selfless action, they can ultimately lead a person to the exact same goal of liberation.
Assuming they are guided by true wisdom, of course.
Yes, absolutely. But Krishna is explicitly teaching that selfless action, which is karma yoga, is the superior, vastly more practical path for the overwhelming majority of us.
Which is such a relief, honestly. I mean, most of us don't have the luxury of just dropping our lives and walking off into a forest.
No, we have bills to pay.
Exactly. But to really get why this matters, to feel the actual weight of it, put yourself in the shoes of Arjuna for a second, we really have to look at the human struggle at the very heart of this text.
It's such a relatable struggle, too.
It really is. I mean, Arjuna is standing in the middle of a literal battlefield at Kurukshetra. Two massive armies are lined up, horns are blowing, the energy is incredibly tense.
Terrifying, really.
But his internal landscape is what's really chaotic.
Yeah.
And that is what's completely relatable. He is just paralyzed by indecision.
Yeah, he's frozen.
In the opening verse of Chapter 5, Arjuna essentially throws his hands up in frustration. He says to Krishna, look, you have praised the renunciation of actions, doing nothing, and then in the exact same breath, you praise karma yoga, vigorous action.
He's getting mixed signals.
Right.
Yeah.
He wants a definitive black and white answer. He demands to know which one is better, which single path should he take.
And if you're listening right now, pay really close attention to this moment, because you have to ask yourself, when you feel completely overwhelmed by the crushing pressure of your responsibilities, what is your very first instinct?
Oh, I know mine.
Right. Is it to just quit everything and move to a cabin off the grid, or is it to stay put and fundamentally change how you approach the work?
It's the ultimate human dilemma, honestly, the whole flight or fight instinct.
Exactly. And in Arjuna's case, the stakes are unimaginably high. He isn't just tired of, a boring corporate job. He is facing the ultimate, most horrifying duty imaginable.
A civil war against his own relatives.
Yes. His revered teachers, his childhood friends, his grief and his paralysis, as Shankaracharya keenly points out, they are born from this deep-seated, erroneous belief of ownership and attachment.
Like this idea of, I belong to these people, they belong to me.
Right. He thinks, if I destroy them, I destroy myself. So naturally, Arjuna is desperately searching for an escape hatch.
He just wants out.
He thinks that if he just drops his famous bow, Gandiva, and walks away, if he physically renounces the literal action of fighting, he will be instantly free from the sin, the karma, and the overwhelming sorrow.
He's confusing physical withdrawal with psychological freedom.
Precisely. He sees the cessation of bodily movement as the ultimate and only solution to his internal agony.
The Krishna's answer completely dismantles that, doesn't it?
Oh, entirely. In verses 5.2 through 5.5, Krishna dismantles that foundational assumption. He states very clearly that both paths lead to liberation, or moksha.
Okay.
However, between the two, Krishna declares that karma yoga, engaging in selfless action, excels over mere physical renunciation.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I really want to push on this point.
Go for it.
If the entire end goal of this philosophy is to be completely free from the tangled, sticky web of karma where every action has a reaction that binds you, wouldn't doing absolutely nothing be the most mathematically sound route?
It seems logical on the surface.
Right. Like if I don't move, I don't create friction. If I don't act, I don't create karma. It seems like a totally foolproof strategy.
And that right there is the great trap of spiritual bypassing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Shankaracharya's commentary makes a razor-sharp, absolutely crucial distinction here to counter that exact logic. True renunciation is incredibly, almost impossibly hard to attain without the purifying practice of selfless action having taken place first.
Wait, purifying practice, what does that mean?
Well, think about the psychological mechanics, what you just suggested. If you just stop moving your body, if you sit in a dark room and refuse to engage with the world, your mind is still racing.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, usually worse when I'm just sitting there.
Exactly. It's racing with unfulfilled desires, anxieties about the future, resentments about the past. You haven't actually renounced anything. You've simply changed your physical posture.
So you're still generating karma in your head.
Yes.
Yeah.
You are still vigorously generating karma because you are still bound by the mental actions of craving and aversion. Your mind is still completely entangled.
That makes so much sense.
Shankaracharya explains that the internal organ, which encompasses the mind, the intellect, and the ego, it must be systematically purified first. It's like trying to pour pure water into a muddy glass.
You have to clean the glass first.
Precisely. And how do you purify it? Through karma yoga, by doing your duty, whatever it happens to be, as a dedicated offering to something higher.
Without, like, anxiously hankering for the selfish rewards or fruits of that labor.
You got it. This constant practice of doing the work but surrendering the outcome acts as a fire. It burns away the impurities of the ego.
Wow.
Only when the mind has been rendered calm and purified by this selfless action does true, complete renunciation even become a psychological possibility.
Okay, I see. We have this pervasive modern fantasy of just quitting. It's the whole, eat, pray, love phenomenon.
Oh, the desire to just run away to Bali.
Exactly. We think if I just quit this toxic, stressful job, if I leave this noisy city, I'll finally find my Zen. We treat our environment as the sole source of our suffering.
Which is such an illusion.
It is, because what you're saying, and what Shankaracharya is pointing out, is that if we take our stressed out, desire-driven, calculating minds with us to a pristine tropical beach, we're just going to be stressed out on a beach.
Yes, you'll just find something new to be anxious about.
Right, we'll start complaining that the sand is too hot or the Wi-Fi at the cabana is too slow. The external environment changed dramatically, but the internal machinery, the ego that constantly judges and craves, didn't change one bit.
The muddy glass is still muddy.
So is Krishna essentially saying that the internal mindset of quitting the neurotic attachment to how things turn out while staying fully physically engaged in your messy, demanding work is the actual goal?
That is precisely the target. Shankaracharya highlights this profound shift beautifully when he analyzes verse 5.3.
What does that verse say?
Krishna says, "He who does not hate and does not crave should be known as a man of constant renunciation."
Wow. He who does not hate and does not crave.
Yeah. I want to pause on that definition because it is radical. Notice what is entirely missing from that sentence.
There's zero mention of what the person is actually doing physically.
Exactly. Krishna doesn't say, he who sits in a cave or he who owns no possessions. The constant renouncer isn't someone sitting motionless in a forest.
It's someone who is right there in the thick of life.
Closing deals, raising toddlers, fighting battles. But internally, their cognitive baseline has fundamentally shifted. They neither hate the unpleasant situations they encounter, nor do they desperately crave the pleasant ones.
They've achieved freedom from duality.
Right. True freedom in this tradition comes from deep self-knowledge and cognitive detachment, not from physical withdrawal.
So they aren't wrestling their minds into submission.
No, Shankaracharya points out that when someone is finally free from the exhausting, endless pendulum swing of likes and dislikes, they are easily freed from bondage. The bondage just naturally falls away.
Almost effortlessly.
Yes, because the super glue that held the illusion together, the constant, frantic desire for things to be different than they are, has just dissolved.
That is a massive paradigm shift. I mean, it completely takes the pressure off having to drastically alter our external circumstances to find peace.
You don't have to wait.
Right. I don't have to wait until I retire or until I get a better boss or until the kids move out to start experiencing freedom. I can experience it right now, right in the middle of the mess.
That is the beauty of it.
But this naturally brings up a huge, glaring, practical question.
Okay, let's hear it.
Now that we've established what we are supposed to do, we are supposed to act without attachment, to be this constant renouncer in the middle of the city. We desperately need to understand how that actually works in practice.
The mechanics of it.
Yeah. How do you engage fully in a high-stakes environment without getting tangled up in it? If you truly do not care about the results, how do you avoid becoming totally apathetic, lazy, or just indifferent to the quality of your work?
And that is the exact tightrope walk that Chapter 5 addresses. It provides some of the most striking and enduring imagery in the entire text.
I love the imagery in this chapter.
It's so helpful. In verses 5.7 to 5.1, Krishna outlines the precise mechanics of this active detachment. He describes the true yogi, the individual whose mind has been purified by karma yoga.
The one who has conquered the erratic pull of the senses.
Yes. This person acts with their physical body, their mind, their intellect, and their organs of perception. They are fully operational. They are not zombies.
Right, they're probably sharper than anyone else in the room.
Often they are. But they remain entirely unattached to the action. How? By systematically dedicating all their actions to the divine or to the supreme reality, simply for the purification of themselves.
So they've abandoned the ego-driven thought process.
Completely. They abandon the ingrained thought of, I am doing this specific task so that I can get this specific reward for my own personal benefit.
I love how vivid the text gets here. There is a famous analogy in verse 5.10 that I think perfectly encapsulates this exact mechanism.
The lotus leaf.
Yes, the analogy of the lotus leaf. The verse essentially says that just as water rolls right off a lotus leaf without ever wetting it, a person who dedicates their actions to the Supreme is utterly untouched by sin, by stress, or by karmic entanglement.
It's such a perfect visual.
If you've never actually observed a lotus leaf up close in nature, it's incredible. It physically grows out of muddy, murky, stagnant water. But the leaf itself is pristine.
Unblemished.
Right. In modern science, we actually call this the lotus effect. The surface is covered in these microscopic nanostructures that make it extremely hydrophobic.
So the water literally cannot penetrate it.
Exactly. When water hits it or when mud splashes on it, it doesn't soak in. It just beads up into a perfect sphere and rolls right off, taking the dirt with it.
That's amazing.
The leaf is deeply embedded in the water. It is entirely surrounded by the water. It relies on the water for its very survival. But it is fundamentally, structurally untouched by the water.
It's a flawless metaphor. And what's fascinating here is how Shankaracharya breaks down the profound internal shift required to actually become like that lotus leaf psychologically.
Because it's not just a poetic idea, right?
No, it's a very specific, rigorously trained cognitive state. He explains that the enlightened person, even while their body and senses are buzzing with intense activity, holds a deep, unwavering realization in the background of their awareness at all times.
What is that realization?
It's this. I certainly do not do anything. The organs act on the objects of the organs.
Oh, wow.
To explain this, Shankaracharya leans into another brilliant metaphor, the town of 9 gates.
The town of 9 gates.
Yeah.
What are the gates?
This represents the human physical body with its 9 external openings. So you have the 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, the mouth, and the organs of excretion and generation.
Ah, okay. The physical interface with the world.
Exactly. The enlightened soul, the true self, dwells happily and peacefully within this town. They act as the silent, unattached witness.
Just observing.
Yes. They watch the organs interact with the physical world, the eyes seeing a beautiful sunset, the ears hearing a harsh insult, the hands typing an email, but they remain the observer.
So they act, they move, they engage, but the ego isn't screaming, I did this.
Precisely. They do everything without the ego violently stepping in at every moment and claiming, I am the doer, I am the one typing this brilliantly, I am the one who was just insulted.
The action just happens.
The necessary duty is fulfilled with precision, but the psychological identification with the action, the egoic ownership, is completely severed.
Okay, but hold on. I need to push back on this significantly because
Ah.
this is where modern listeners usually hit a massive wall.
I know exactly where you're going with this.
If the self, the true me, does nothing, and nature or my organs do everything, doesn't that fundamentally destroy the concept of personal accountability? Doesn't it kill all ambition?
It's a very common concern.
Like, think about a modern workplace. If I make a terrible $1 million mistake at work, can I just look at my boss and say, hey, the organs acted on the objects of the organs? It wasn't me. I am just the silent witness dwelling in the town of 9 gates.
Your boss probably wouldn't appreciate that.
Right. If we detach our identity from our actions completely, how do we avoid becoming passive, irresponsible, and ultimately totally ineffective in a results-driven society?
That is the most common and arguably the most dangerous misunderstanding of this entire philosophy. It's a very fair question. But Shankaracharya anticipates this exact objection.
Oh, he does.
Absolutely. This philosophy, when understood correctly, absolutely does not kill accountability, and it doesn't kill high performance. What it systematically kills is the neurotic anxiety attached to the results.
The neurotic anxiety.
Yes. Let's unpack the mechanics of performance. If we connect this to the bigger picture of how human beings actually operate, true accountability means responding appropriately and excellently to the duties that are right in front of you.
Okay, makes sense.
The Karma Yogi, the person practicing this act of detachment, is actually more meticulous, more dedicated, and more fiercely focused than the ordinary ambition-driven worker.
But why? If they don't care about the outcome, where does the drive come from?
Think about where the ordinary worker's cognitive energy is actually going. 50% of their brain power is focused on the task, but the other 50% is bleeding out into the future and the past.
Ah, I see.
They are paralyzed by the fear of failure. They are desperate for their boss's praise. They are calculating office politics. They are worrying about the mortgage. All of that is cognitive leakage.
So the lack of attachment actually frees up bandwidth.
Exactly. The Karma Yogi has none of that cognitive leakage. Their energy isn't being drained by anxiety about the future. They are 100% entirely present in the action itself.
That's profound. You still perform your duties with absolute excellence, but you have abandoned the ego's desperate, exhausting need to claim all the glory when things go right.
Or to mourn the failure and collapse into a puddle of despair when things go wrong. You do the work simply because it is the right thing to do, because it is your designated duty in this moment, in this town of 9 gates.
The metric for accountability completely shifts.
It does. It shifts from an unpredictable external standard like, did the market like my product? Did the client say yes? To an entirely internal, controllable standard.
Was my intention pure? Did I execute my duty to the absolute best of my ability without malice or greed?
Yes. And to go back to your earlier point, the lotus leaf doesn't stop photosynthesizing just because it refuses to absorb the muddy water.
That's a great point.
It doesn't become lazy. It does its biological job perfectly, vigorously, exactly as nature intended. It just does it without getting waterlogged and sinking.
That is a phenomenal distinction. It's not about doing less, it's about doing everything with a fundamentally lighter heart.
A lighter ego, really.
Yeah, it's the heaviness of the ego, the constant need to protect and inflate our self-image that actually exhausts us, not the work itself. You can work a 12-hour day with a detached mind and feel energized.
Or you can work a 4-hour day obsessing over what people think of you and feel entirely burnt out.
Exactly. And once you achieve this internal detachment, this shedding of the ego's constant need to categorize every single event as either good for me or bad for me, it naturally and inevitably transforms how you view the external world.
It changes everything.
You stop viewing people merely as stepping stones or obstacles to your desires. And this leads us to one of the most profound and frankly socially radical concepts in the entire Gita.
Yes, Sama-darshana.
The equality of vision. If you're listening to this, pay close attention here to Krishna's teaching on equality of vision. Notice how this challenges our everyday habit of judging and categorizing everyone we meet.
It's something we all do unconsciously.
Right. Think about your own daily commute or walking through a busy grocery store. We constantly size people up. We categorize them. This person looks wealthy. That person looks threatening. This person is important. That person is invisible. We do it automatically.
It's deeply ingrained.
But in verse 5.1, Krishna shatters this habit. He declares that the wise look with equanimity, with absolute equal vision, on a learned and humble Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and an eater of dog's meat and outcast.
You used the word radical earlier, and that is exactly what this verse was, especially considering the deeply stratified, rigidly hierarchical society in which the Gita was historically spoken.
It must have been shocking to hear.
Completely. To look at the absolute, universally acknowledged pinnacle of society, the pure, highly educated Brahmana, and then to look at the absolute lowest rung of the social ladder, the outcast alongside various animals, and to mandate that a wise person sees them all as perfectly equal. It is a staggering revolutionary proposition.
It really is.
Shankaracharya dives deep into the rich textual commentary here to explain why these very specific examples were chosen by Krishna. They aren't just random animals and people drawn out of a hat.
They represent something bigger.
Yes, they represent the entire comprehensive spectrum of the gunas.
Okay, we should probably define that for those who might not be deep into Sanskrit philosophy. The gunas are essentially the three fundamental threads or qualities of nature, right?
Yes, exactly. In Sankhya philosophy, the material world, including our own psychology, is woven from these three gunas.
Oh, really?
First, you have the Brahmana, endowed with learning and humility. This represents sattva, the quality of goodness, purity, lucidity, and light.
Okay, sattva is the pure lucid quality.
Right. Then you have the cow, an animal that is constantly active, grazing, moving. This represents rajas, the quality of activity, passion, ambition, and kinetic energy.
And the third?
Finally, you have the elephant, the dog, and the outcast, which in this specific ancient classification represented tamas, the quality of dullness, lethargy, darkness, and ignorance.
So by listing these specific entities, Krishna is covering the entire blueprint of physical and psychological existence.
Exactly. From the most refined and spiritual to the most base and instinctual, he encompasses the whole spectrum of nature's expressions.
But wait, let's look at this critically. Why are the wise seeing them equally? It's not that they are literally pretending a dog is a human being, or that an elephant is a cow. They aren't visually blind or suddenly devoid of common sense, right?
No, of course not.
Like, if an elephant is charging at you, you don't treat it like a peaceful scholar. You get out of the way.
Yeah.
How does this equal vision actually work without denying physical reality?
Precisely. They are not visually or practically blind. They have achieved a much deeper, penetrating spiritual sight.
Yeah.
They interact appropriately with the forms, but their foundational understanding has shifted.
So what are they actually seeing?
Shankaracharya explains the core why behind this equality. The wise see the exact same flawless, unblemished Brahman, the supreme reality, the absolute unchanging consciousness residing equally and fully in every single one of those entities.
Ah, so it's about what's inside.
Yes. The physical bodies, the different species, and the varying degrees of intelligence, social status, or purity are merely the containers. They are all made of the gunas, made of shifting, temporary, material nature.
But the essence is the same.
Right. The observer within, the knower of the field, that spark of the divine inside, is absolutely untouched by the qualities of the container it inhabits. The wise person's vision has been trained to pierce right through the external packaging.
So whether that packaging is wrapped in the pure, glowing sattva of a revered scholar, or the heavy, dense tamas of an animal, the wise recognize the identical, eternal, unchanging essence within.
That's beautifully put.
I often think of this like electricity, just to make it tangible. Imagine the exact same electrical current flowing through two different objects in a house.
Okay.
It flows through a beautifully crafted, incredibly expensive crystal chandelier in the dining room, and it also flows through a basic, cheap, slightly dented toaster in the kitchen.
Oh, I love this analogy.
Right. Now, if you are completely obsessed with external forms, you walk into the house and say, wow, this chandelier is vastly superior to this toaster. The chandelier is beautiful, it's exalted, it's sattvic. The toaster is just basic and functional.
You judge them based on their output.
Exactly. And on a purely physical, utilitarian level, sure, they do very different things. You don't make toast in the chandelier.
I wouldn't recommend it.
But if you were an electrician, if your entire focus is on the fundamental energy itself, for an absolute fact that the current lighting up the crystal is the exact same current heating up the bread.
There is no chandelier electricity and toaster electricity.
It is identical. The enlightened mind is the electrician. It stops staring at the appliance. It stops getting caught up in judging the value of the chandelier versus the toaster, the scholar versus the dog, and it starts recognizing the current. That realization is Sama-darshana.
That is a brilliant and highly accurate analogy. The electrician knows how to interact with both appliances safely, but they know the power source is one. And Shankaracharya takes the implication of this realization even further. He argues that because this supreme reality, Brahman, is completely free from defects and is the exact same in all beings, those whose minds are firmly established in this sameness have actually conquered the cycle of rebirth here itself.
Wait, here itself? You mean while they're still alive?
Yes. Even while they are still living and breathing in their current physical body, they don't have to wait until they die to achieve liberation or go to some heavenly realm.
That's incredible.
By intimately realizing the flawless, universal nature of the self, they become functionally untouched by the flaws, the biases, and the cruelties of the world, just like Brahman itself.
They've neutralized the ego's addictive habit of identifying strictly with the appliance.
And have fully identified with the current.
And realizing that is the ultimate leveling of the playing field, which perfectly sets up the next stage of our journey in Chapter 5. Recognizing this universal essence, actually seeing the current in everything, naturally neutralizes our frantic worldly desires and our everyday frustrations.
Because you aren't chasing the forms anymore.
Think about it. If you aren't obsessed with acquiring the fanciest appliances, you don't suffer agonizing grief when yours breaks, or crippling jealousy when your neighbor gets a better one. This realization paves the direct physiological path to true, unshakable inner peace.
It really does.
But to get there, Krishna delivers a very hard truth in verse 5.22. He says, enjoyments that result from contact with objects are verily the sources of sorrow. Because they all have a beginning and an end, the wise do not delight in them.
This is a cornerstone of the entire Vedantic philosophy, and Shankaracharya's insight here is notoriously uncompromising. He states bluntly that external joys are creations of ignorance.
Ouch. That sounds incredibly harsh, perhaps even depressing to our modern ears.
I know.
Because, let's be honest, we spend our entire lives, our entire economic system is built on chasing these external joys. The new car, the promotion, the perfect vacation, the ideal romantic partner. We are told that contact with these objects is the meaning of life.
We are bombarded with that messaging every single day.
But Shankaracharya's logic, if you follow it through to the end, is flawless and undeniable. When you rely on external contacts for your happiness, when your internal state of joy is entirely dependent on a specific object, a specific person, or a specific set of circumstances remaining exactly as they are, you are absolutely guaranteeing your own future sorrow.
Yes, because it is the fundamental, inescapable physical law of all external things to end.
They all have a beginning, and therefore, they all must have an end.
If your happiness is tied to something temporary, your happiness is by definition temporary. When the object inevitably breaks, when the person eventually leaves or changes, when the economic situation shifts, the joy is instantly replaced by an equal and opposite measure of grief.
It's mathematical.
It is. The wise person, having deeply observed this inevitable mathematical cycle of pain, simply stops trying to squeeze eternal, lasting happiness out of temporary, decaying objects.
It's the ultimate psychological trap. In modern psychology, we call this the hedonic treadmill.
Oh, right, the hedonic treadmill.
You buy the new phone, you get a massive spike in dopamine, you feel incredible for about a week, and then it just becomes your phone. The baseline resets. And now you need the next model to get that same spike. You are running exhaustingly fast just to stay in the exact same emotional place.
You never actually get anywhere.
Right. Building your identity and happiness entirely on external things is like building a massive, beautiful mansion on a frozen lake in the middle of winter.
Oh, that's a dangerous place to build a house.
It might feel incredibly solid for a few months. You might host great parties in there, but spring is inevitably coming. The ice is going to melt and you are going to sink. It's not a possibility. It's a certainty.
Spring always comes.
So if the external world is a frozen lake, what do the wise do instead? Where do they build their house?
They turn their attention entirely inward to that which does not change. They build on the bedrock of the self. And this is a massive, to actually do that, to make that inward turn, they have to first weather the storm of their own biological and psychological programming.
Which brings us to verse 5.23.
Yes, which I consider one of the most powerful calls to action in the text. Krishna says that the true yogi is the one who can withstand the powerful, violent impulses of desire and anger here on earth before the body falls.
That timing is crucial, isn't it? Here on earth, before the body falls.
Exactly. You cannot wait for ideal conditions to practice spirituality. You cannot tell yourself, I'll meditate and be peaceful when I retire, or I'll let go of my anger when my kids are older and less stressful, or wait until your biological drives naturally fade in old age.
The practice is now.
You have to face the raw, visceral, physiological force of desire and anger right now, today. When your amygdala is hijacked, when your blood is hot, when the world is actively insulting you or tempting you with something you deeply want, that is the arena.
The heat of the moment.
If you can withstand that sudden torrent without acting on it blindly, without being swept away by the narrative it creates in your head, you are a true yogi. You have found the fortress of inner peace.
Think about the mechanics of that for a moment. When anger hits, it's not just a thought. It's a massive chemical dump in the body. Adrenaline spikes, cortisol floods the system, your heart rate elevates.
It's an intense physiological event.
Krishna is saying that the victory isn't in never feeling those chemicals as biological. The victory is in withstanding the impulse to act on them. It's creating a microsecond of space between the stimulus and the response.
That space is everything.
And notice this crucial shift that happens right here in the text. If you're listening, listen to how Krishna moves the focus from our external actions and duties directly inward, placing a heavy stress on meditation and inner peace.
He has laid the philosophical groundwork perfectly. He's explained how to act in the world with detachment, he's explained why we must see everyone equally, and he's warned us about the trap of temporary pleasures.
Right. And now, having dismantled the external world, right at the very end of chapter 5, in verses 5.27 and 5.28, he moves the focus directly inward. He gives us the highly specific, practical, physiological steps to enter that inner fortress.
He introduces the precursors to deep meditation.
Yes. This is a beautiful transition.
Having established intellectually that true happiness is found within, not in external contacts, Krishna briefly outlines how to actually access that internal state physiologically. It's a tantalizing preview of the intense meditation instructions he will fully expand upon in the next chapter.
So what are these steps?
He gives a precise sequence. First, he talks about keeping external objects outside. This isn't just closing your doors. It means consciously, deliberately withdrawing the mind's attention from the sensory world. You stop feeding the mental movie of your desires.
Turning off the projector, basically.
Yes. Second, he mentions focusing the gaze between the eyebrows. From a neurological standpoint, this is fascinating. This upward and inward gaze is a recognized technique to steady the wandering mind. It impacts the brain's default mode network, reducing the chatter of the ego.
Oh, wow. So there's real science backing this up.
Absolutely. Third, he talks about equalizing the outgoing and incoming breath that moves through the nostrils. We now know clinically that rhythmic, equalized breathing directly stimulates the vagus nerve,
Which shifts the nervous system.
immediately shifting the autonomic nervous system out of the sympathetic fight or flight state and into the parasympathetic rest and digest state. He is giving Arjuna the ancient biological blueprint for calming the nervous system.
That is mind-blowing. Thousands of years ago, they mapped this out.
But Shankaracharya is quick to remind us that these physical techniques, the gazing, the breathing, are just the scaffolding. The real heavy lifting is internal.
The mindset behind it.
Becoming a contemplative who has absolute control over the organs, mind, and intellect, who is fully intent on liberation, and who is utterly free from the underlying currents of desire, fear, and anger. When you achieve this holistic state, you are not just practicing freedom. As the final verses declare, you are verily free forever.
It's an absolutely incredible narrative arc. We start this chapter on a noisy, dusty, terrifying battlefield, with Arjuna literally having a panic attack about his overwhelming duties.
A total breakdown.
And we end up in the profound, silent stillness of a mind that has completely mastered itself. A mind that is quietly watching the breath, equalizing the nervous system, and has completely shut out the chaotic noise of the world.
It's a journey from total chaos to absolute peace.
But, and this is where it gets really interesting, how does a modern learner actually apply this? Because let's be real, most of us are not sitting in a serene ashram in the forest practicing our breathing.
No, we're very much not.
We might be prepping for a massive presentation at work tomorrow that our career depends on. We might be trying to catch up on a dense field of study for an exam.
Okay.
We might be managing a chaotic household with toddlers screaming in the background while trying to pay the electric bill. We're entirely in the thick of it.
The modern battlefield.
Exactly. How do we take the profound philosophy of Karma Sanyasa Yoga and apply it to the Monday morning commute?
That is the most vital question we can ask. Because if this philosophy only works when you are isolated in a cave, It is practically useless to us today.
Right.
The profound modern resonance of Karma Sanyasa Yoga is that it forcefully teaches us that we absolutely do not need to run away from our complex responsibilities to find peace. In fact, as we established earlier, running away is often just the ego looking for an easier path, and it doesn't solve the internal problem anyway.
So what's the alternative?
Shankaracharya's entire rigorous emphasis is that true sannyasa, true renunciation, is fundamentally a mental state. It is an internal posture of the mind, not an external lifestyle choice. It is about actively cultivating an inner fortress of detachment while remaining fully, robustly, and even aggressively engaged on the outside.
Let's take your example of the massive corporate presentation. If you are practicing karma yoga, you don't just wing it and say, whatever happens is God's will. No. You prep for it with 100% of your effort. You research the data, you practice your delivery, you anticipate the difficult questions, you give it absolutely everything you have.
You do the work.
But, and this is the razor's edge, the moment you step up to the podium, you renounce your attachment to the applause at the end. You completely let go of the fear of your boss criticizing you. You surrender the anxiety over whether this will lead to a promotion. You do the work purely as an offering, as the meticulous execution of your duty in the present moment.
You become the lotus leaf.
Exactly. The intense stress of the corporate world, the office politics, the economic pressure that is the muddy water. You are in it, but you let it roll right off you. You do not let it penetrate your core identity.
I cannot emphasize enough how much I love that application, because what you are describing is the ultimate antidote to modern burnout.
Yes. We talk about burnout constantly today, but we often misdiagnose the cause.
We think it's just working too much.
Right. But human beings are incredibly resilient. People can work incredibly long, grueling hours if they are deeply inspired and internally detached. Burnout happens from the friction of the ego. It's the constant grinding, heavy weight of the what-ifs that drains our batteries.
What if I fail this exam? What if this client hates my pitch? What if I don't get the promotion and my peers judge me?
That internal narrative takes massive amounts of psychological energy to sustain. By doing the rigorous work but actively surrendering the outcome, that entire heavy burden of what-ifs is just lifted off your shoulder.
You stop leaking energy.
You're just chopping wood and carrying water, preparing the slides and giving the presentation, but with a quiet, joyful, resilient mind. You are living happily in the town of 9 gates, doing exactly what needs to be done, without taking the drama of the external world personally.
Exactly. You reclaim all that lost energy and redirect it into the present action. And this brings us beautifully to the definitive summary of Chapter 5.
How would you summarize it?
If we have to distill all of Shankaracharya's complex, multi-layered commentary and all of Krishna's profound teachings on the tension between action and knowledge down to a single guiding sentence, it is this: renunciation is not an escape from the world, but the discovery of unshakable freedom within the world, achieved through selfless action and guided by wisdom.
Wow.
It is the profound realization that the chains that truly bind you aren't made of your demanding duties, your stressful job, or your difficult relationships. They are forged entirely of your own unexamined desires and aversions. Cut those internal threads, and you are free right here, right now, wherever you happen to stand.
What a staggeringly powerful place to land. It completely reframes how we should look at our overwhelming to-do list tomorrow morning. It turns every mundane task into an opportunity for spiritual liberation.
It really does.
Before we wrap up, I want to remind you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss our future explorations, and please leave a comment below. We really want to know, how will you practice being the lotus leaf in your own life this week?
What specific situation is causing you muddy stress, and how can you let that water roll off while still doing your best work?
Also, those physical breathing and focus techniques we touched on very briefly at the end of today's deep dive, that was just a teaser. Join us next time as we plunge headfirst into Chapter 6, Dhyana Yoga, the yoga of meditation, where Krishna reveals the ultimate step-by-step blueprint for mastering the chaotic, wandering mind. You absolutely won't want to miss it.
To close our time together, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you navigate the complexities of your week.
Go ahead.
Consider the profound paradox we started with today: fully doing the hard work while simultaneously renouncing the world. Ask yourself this question and be honest with your answer. If every single action you took tomorrow, every email you sent, every conversation you had, every chore you completed was done as a pure, dedicated offering to something greater than your own ego, with absolutely zero concern for whether you succeed or fail in the eyes of the world, how entirely different would your day feel?